An historic building in Colleton County honoring part of its legacy by celebrating black educators of the segregation era through a new exhibit. The Ray T. Johnson building has served as a temporary home for black servicemen and later became a part of a segregated school. And now it's a community resource center that has brought history to life. Live 5's Maya Brown talked with the exhibit organizers and educators who are honored through the exhibit and joins us live from there in Walterboro. Tell us more, Maya.
Raviel, that is right. And take a look right here. This isn't just any type of clothing. It's a Letterman jacket, a t-shirt, and it's all memorabilia belonging to Colleton County educators and students who live the realities of segregated classrooms. The main question this exhibit asks is who gets to tell that story? The organizers behind the exhibit say that answer is the community itself in their own words. And their goal is to have people from all generations come and understand where they've been so they can know where they're going. The Ray T. Johnson building in Walterboro has worn many hats. In the 1950s, it began as the Gruber Street USO, a temporary home base for black servicemen. After the war, it became part of the Colleton Training School for African American students, later known as Colleton High. And it's now home to the Low Country Community Resource Center. Through a grant the Resource Center received from the Low Country Oral History Initiative that identified 240 black educators and collected oral histories and documents all related to the Colleton Training School, which later became Colleton High. The center honored several educators through a celebration last month and have decided to keep the exhibit up and further expand on it. Organizers say their goal is to make sure no story goes untold.
What we're trying to do is to begin building a collection of artifacts, stories, oral histories, and create some other items that we think that could go into this space and eventually become a real museum. We have an amazing community, and it's always been an amazing community, and we want to remind people what it used to be and make sure that we can pull that pride back forward and continue on with that, to continue on with building our community.
I also spoke to two retired educators who did give oral histories for this exhibit, and they say it feels like a homecoming, and being celebrated and honored this way is something they'll never forget. Learn more about this exhibit and their stories later at 7 p.m. Reporting in Walterboro, I'm Maya Brown, Live 5 News.